Friends, today I'm speaking with Annette Dernick. She's a best-selling author, keynote speaker, and a peace-driven workplace strategist. Her mission is bold and clear. It's to bring love, respect, and emotional clarity into our workplace environments. Through her book, The Peace Factor, and decades of coaching leaders and teams, Annette helps organizations transform toxic communication patterns into cultures of trust, calm, and collaboration. Today, I'm joined by Annette from Germany, and today I really just want to expand the length of the show because I love meeting people from across the pond, and this really helps me. It helps our work. It helps us understand how we can approach our authorpreneurship, our work in general, and how other people do things. So let's dive into what I hope will be a really meaningful conversation today about workplace peace and how it's not just good for morale, but it's also good for business. Annette, welcome to the Rising Author Experience. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here, and I'm very much looking forward to our conversation. And especially as intercultural awareness is one of the topics I'm very fond of. And so, yes, at the beginning, I would like to just listen to you a little bit further and to your first questions before I start asking you questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Annette, obviously we met over LinkedIn. I was sort of admiring your work from a distance a little bit, and we kind of had some corresponding, but I really was kind of, your book is in German. So I took it to ChatGPT and tell me all about this amazing woman and tell me what her book's about. And it was struck me, it was like, the peace factor in work. So I'm curious to know how you came to this. Why do you choose the word peace? And why do you believe it's missing in the workplace today?
Oh, yeah. So I could talk about this like in one of my speeches, but I'll cut it short. So it came to me, let's say, via the channel from above. It was about 8 or 9 years ago. And one night I woke up and somehow I heard Love and Peace in Companies. And I was really astonished. And I thought, so why not? And it took 2 years until I found out why this topic had come to me. 7 years ago, I woke up one morning and I was too dizzy to walk. So I spent several months, more than 1 year, in different clinics. And I found out that in my early childhood, I had experienced trauma that I didn't remember at all. And so this was influenced by experiences of my parents during World War II. And then I had the answer to my question that I really want to contribute as much as possible to peace in this world. And so why companies? People spend a lot of time in companies. And I've been working in companies for more than 40 years now because I already started working in companies before I started studying. And what I experienced over there, it was not always very peaceful. It was not only that, men were not very nice to women. It was also these things. Sometimes there are battles in companies as well. Or, for example, just to give you a short example, I had been leader of marketing sales control. And we had regular meeting with the owners that came from Switzerland. And I was reporting to the CEO, marketing and sales. And before every meeting, he asked me to do some statistics and some charts. And so I did what he had told me, and with the chart for the incoming orders, I went into his office and showed it to him, and he said, we can't show this to the Swiss people because the curve is not going up, it's going down. You have to change the chart. And so I tried, and the 6 months was going down, 9 months, finally the 12 month oral income, it was going up. And then he said, okay, we can take this chart. And for me, this is not being honest. And in my opinion, he kind of cheated, or we cheated on the owners, and at the same time the owners could have asked as well. And so there's now a very personal experience of mine. I had the impression that they met and they went to a very nice lunch and that they sat together and talked with each other. And I think that some owners who really care could have asked also some, let's say, critical questions, what they didn't do. And only some years later, the whole company had to be sold. So and there are much more experiences, people fighting against each other, and fight and war doesn't start somewhere far away. It already starts inside myself, and then it continues in the outside. And in my opinion, there are a lot of quarrels going on in companies. And I also remember when I came home during my first job in the evening, I was really frustrated. And sometimes it took me half an hour to get rid of all this frustration. And I'm convinced if people really have peace and appreciation at their workplace, when they come home in the evening and they can tell their family, oh, today we solved this problem, we solved this conflict, we found a new customer, we won this new customer, then they will start in a completely different mood in their evening. And so each of us can contribute to peace wherever we are. And it starts with me. And then the second area is peace with the people who surround me. And the third one, peace with the environment.
I love that.
What do you think about all the things that I've told you?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, I commend you for, raising your own awareness, like, I think that's the number one thing. Like, I was born in Iraq, and, I have lots of trauma from the Gulf War. We ended up being refugees. And so, it wasn't obviously deep rooted, like, World War or anything like that, as far as your culture and your background and your sort of traumatic experiences from, things that we technically had nothing to do with, in a way, right? As people, when we grow up, like, I didn't sign up for that, nor did I agree with that. But I kind of get to sadly carry this weird burden. And sometimes we wake up and we're like, man, this is a part of me and I have to deal with this somehow. It's inside, it's in our blood, it's in our DNA, and it's on our cells. And so I admire you for sort of taking care of yourself and realizing where this comes from. And I think a lot of people out there who struggle with all kinds of different things, we don't understand sometimes how those things impact our daily lives, our work, our communication patterns. So it took me a lot of work, personally, through therapy, through writing my book and getting the cathartic sort of experience out, and being very open and vulnerable with people about my story and speaking. That really has empowered me to channel that energy, not in anger or frustration, but in a positive, impactful, and optimistic way. And being, like you said earlier, solution oriented, which I think is what helped you dismantle wanting to be dishonest. It helped you dismantle this, look, I don't want to be frustrated when I come home, but there are ways to do this. And if I can figure it out, how can I help others figure it out? And that's what I love about your work. It kind of struck me. And I think it's very interesting. And I when people write about these kinds of things, right, because we spend a lot of time in our work, a lot. I did a little bit of corporate stuff. Now I do, I have my own team. I have my own small agency. So I try to be a coach as much as I can to my team, and not like a manager per se. So I think there's ways to do this stuff, and there's healthy ways, there's beautiful ways, and there's ways that we can unlearn, right? So you've coached a lot of leaders and teams over the years. What would you say the most common communication pattern that destroys trust at work?
Yeah, I'll answer this in a second. So when I've been listening to your answer, I had the impression that you said that your trauma was, let's say, not as much as mine. For me, there is no differentiation. Trauma is trauma. And the thing that's much more important is to deal with it. And so what I experienced, as long as I didn't know my trauma, I was just functioning. I sometimes, in hindsight, I felt a little bit like a robot, doing things that I had been told. And now I am arriving to really my inner self. And as to the teams, in my opinion, there are so many things. So one thing is that people very often, they want to be right. And in my speeches, I tell my audience that there are things, three things that are not worth talking about. The first one is who's right or who's wrong. The second one is whose fault is it? And the third one is who started it. And so if teams already don't ask these things, they can save a lot of time. And then the next thing is that, and that's really something that I love to do with teams and also with company owners, because they have the most impact on the employees and the companies, is a very simple technique of communication. It's using I messages instead of you messages. So you message is if I say, you're late again. And an I message is if I tell my employee, oh, I'm really disappointed that you are late again, and I really want to find a solution for you, how you can make sure that you'll be here at, for example, 10 before 9, so that we can open our shop, our online, I don't know what, to serve our customers. And then there is some second question, second thing that I really love, and these are the so-called open-ended questions. In Germany, it was the trailer for Sesame Street. Who, where, what, something like this. And so if then the leader asks the person, oh, how can you make sure that you will arrive in time tomorrow morning? Then this is a complete different communication. And then just to mention another topic, I could go on talking about this as well for
this
hours.
Is great.
Is to really acknowledge conflicts. Many people, they think that conflicts are something bad that has to be avoided. My experience is the more I avoid conflicts, the bigger they grow. And in Germany, we have a saying as to good salespeople, you send them out through the door and they come back in through the window. In my opinion, that's the same with conflicts. You send the conflicts out of the door and they come in through the window. The only thing is that they are bigger than the thing that I sent out. So if conflicts really grow, then the more they grow, the more difficult it is to really resolve them. And so at the beginning, it's maybe a misunderstanding, and I make a difference between misunderstanding and conflict. So as to communication, we distinguish, and sometimes it's called the iceberg model, where there's a part of the communication above the surface, and that's kind of the spoken word. And then there is the part below the surface. And below the surface, there are my values, my opinions, and so on. And sometimes this differs from, sometimes it always differs, not only from person to person, but from culture to culture. And so when I send a message above the surface, which is more content related, then for me it's a difference in opinion. Whereas when it touches one of my values and then it's below the surface, then I feel attacked. And for me, a very simple example is, and I'll tell it with soccer, because in Germany and Europe, soccer is much more common than, for example, American football. So, but I think it's the same all over the world. So if I talk, for example, about the football team from Cologne, and there's someone else who is a fan of football, of the football team or soccer team. I say, as you say soccer in the United
Yeah.
States, Munich. Yeah. And then if I say, oh, Cologne, it was so great. And the guy from Munich, oh, no, and it wasn't. And this is touching the values. So it doesn't have always something to do with, let's say, cultural aspects, but it really happens very often. And people hurt the values of another person without realizing it. And then it's important to really mention this. So, and I stick to this example. So the guy who is founder of the Munich soccer team, he says, "Oh, I really feel a little bit hurt when I hear you talking, and I really prefer if we can leave this discussion out of our team meetings, because for me it's really difficult because I'm really emotional engaged with my sports team, and I know that you're engaged with your sports team. And if possible, and if we can leave this out of our discussion, I think that we can concentrate much more on the topics that are really relevant for our discussion in our company."
Right.
Yeah, and I think you've already realized that I could talk on for hours on these topics,
No, this is great. Yeah.
that's really what it is. So simple,
Right.
There is no, what we say in German, I don't know if it exists in English as well, no rocket science behind it. It's
Yeah.
simple communication techniques, and everybody
Yes.
can learn it. And that's exactly why
Right.
I wrote the book. And that's also why what I want to do now to support company leaders who are already on the path to be more aware with their thoughts. And sometimes it's difficult to also find the right words and also the right attitude for their behavior, how they communicate with their employees and also with their customers. And with these small things, things can really change dramatically. I've experienced it in my own family. When I started to change my wording, we had completely other discussions than we've had before. Because before it was blaming, it's you, it's you, it's you. And afterwards we said, okay, I feel hurt because of, and then the other person could say, yeah, and I was angry because, and then we find kind of a common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very
Common
easy
ground. Yeah.
to find a common sense. It's not about
Yeah.
this is sometimes what makes me angry when I listen to some, and I think we all know that there at present there's one special war going on, and when I hear those people, they say, "Oh, your start was unacceptable wishes," and the other one says the same. So you can't see my hands because they are so far away from each other, and it really would be better to ask, so what is possible? And this is always also what we said about being solution oriented,
Mm-hmm.
to really
Yeah.
sit together and find, let's say, the smallest common kind of agreement.
Yeah. I love
And
that so much. Yeah, because it ties back to, this idea of really not wanting to make the whatever we're facing complex, and to simplify it, and to get focused on what's at hand, because that's what matters. That's what moves the things forward, right? But it's like, these outsider distractions, these conflicting, if I know what pushes my buttons emotionally, this is something I actually had to like really learn about myself. And this is why it's so important to learn about yourself, right? Because you have everyone has, in my opinion, everyone has these triggers and emotional triggers. Again, whether it's sports, religion, politics, whatever, kids, family,
yeah,
brothers, sisters. I mean, really, it could, if you, it's a range, right? But
yes,
if I know that, like, bringing this topic up, and honestly, I had this conversation with my wife maybe even 3 weeks ago. I say, you know what? That conversation, every time it comes up, I've noticed myself get heated. And I would love for you to help me, just like nudge me or tap me on the shoulder or tap me on my knee, and she's so good at this, right? Um, that if you see me go in that direction, because sometimes we sort of do it unintentionally, right? And that's the barrier, right? It's like unintentional. But if someone there can help bring your alignment back, bring your awareness back, which she has done such a good job for me, I found myself, oh, okay, like I don't need to go there because I know that's what's like I'm gonna get emotional, and I don't. There's nothing I can do with that energy. But let me bring it back over here, right? I want her to feel good. I want to feel good during our conversation. So that level of awareness, like you said, is it's actually, yes, you're right. It's very simple, but it's hard in that you have to know yourself and know how you can get the help, right? So it's like you said, but just bringing that conversation to a friend, say, hey, you know what? I know you like that soccer club. I know I like my soccer club. Let's just do both of us a favor because we get heated and we're both emotional. And that takes a lot of courage, right? It takes a lot of bravery on our part, but I feel like it makes you feel fantastic because then that person knows the boundary. And I think that's what we're talking about here. It's sort of an invisible boundary that, if I push this button, it's going to take us away from what matters. And I think peace, the word peace, it's pieces. There's pieces to all of this. And
Yeah.
it's a puzzle sometimes. It's only
Yes.
a big puzzle because we don't communicate. And I really love this about your work. And it sounds like in your book, you talk about, I think pieces also, they come together through this mutual respect.
Yeah.
And you talk about how it's a two-way street, but many leaders struggle to receive it. And it's not just to give it, right? How do you help those leaders navigate that specific, this understanding that it's a two-way street? And how do you cultivate that?
Yeah. Before I answer this question, I would admit that this happens to me as well, that there are some triggers. And so I'm kind of very sensitive when it comes to smells. So, for example, if there's someone with, let's say, very heavy perfume, this can
Mm,
be difficult for me because
yeah.
I can kind of shut my ears and close my eyes, but I can't put something in my nose to not smell it.
Yeah.
The same is on the other range. If somebody hadn't, for example, a homeless person, I know that they it's very difficult for them, and at the same time, that's just my kind of border. When
Mhm.
I smell this, it's really difficult for me to stay to stay calm and objective and and
Yeah. It
um,
raises an emotion. Yeah.
yes, exactly.
Mhm.
So I'm sorry now. Can you please
No, it's
repeat your
okay.
question?
Yeah, no worries. So basically, I want to highlight this idea of a two-way street in respect. The thing
Yes.
that you kind of talk about a little bit in your book, and how many leaders struggle, from your understanding, they struggle to receive that respect, not just give it. How do you help them navigate that?
Yes, thank you very much that you repeated it for me. Sometimes I get lost in
No, no worries. Yeah.
no. Two things. The first thing is I only work with those leaders who are already on their way.
Mm,
So I know that there are people, and they are sometimes my age or a little bit older, who grew up with authoritarian leadership style. And I really don't want to argue with them about their leadership style. In case that somebody approaches me and tells me, I really want to have appreciation in my team, I really want us to work together as a company like a wonderful sports team, then I really tell them that everything starts within.
mm,
Because when I'm still fighting inside me, then it's much more probable that I start fighting with others as well. And this
mm,
starts with very small things. Just as an example, if someone is on a diet or wants to reduce, I don't know, cigarettes or alcohol or whatsoever, and they are on a party and there are sweets and alcohol and cigarettes, and then very often this struggle starts within. Am I going to eat this cake? No, I'm on a diet. Oh, but this evening I can. I think everybody knows what I mean. And then it's important to realize this. And in my opinion, it's also important to say, even though if I eat a piece of cake or drink a glass of wine, then not to beat up on me, but to say, okay, it was a party and you had this piece of cake and it was so delicious, and then also be happy while eating it and not feeling guilty, and to have this as a decision that I make, and to decide, okay, is the, I don't know, wedding cake from my best friend, and I really want to taste it, and yeah, and then to be happy with this decision and not argue afterwards. And with this attitude, we can add much more to peace in the world. And there are also some very practical things. I will only mention them very briefly. One very important thing for me is meditation, to really withdraw from the outer world and to concentrate on my inner voice and to the connection to the divine. The second one is being in nature. So I go for a walk nearly every day. And to really to ask myself, what are things that make me happy? And to do these things, not only do the things of which I think that I have to do them, and instead ask myself, oh, what is, if I didn't have any obligation, what would I love to do now? And that's also a question in my coachings, as well as another one. The other one, it refers to money. In case that you had $1 million, what would you do? And these two questions, they really open the imagination, the head for solutions, because sometimes it's only our own boundaries that we have and that we don't dare to really leave behind us. And so for me, it's really a continuous work, and I experience it in my life as well. And sometimes it's 2 steps ahead and 1 step back, and then also not to beat up on myself for the step back, but to say, okay, I'm going to learn this. And what really helped me was the idea that I am the one who can change my thoughts. And there is a very nice quote from Francis, I think it was Francis Bacon, and he said, the head is round so that the thoughts can change the direction. And I really love this. And then I realized that it's all my responsibility. I'm responsible for my thoughts. I can change them. And yes, it also happens to me that I think, oh, why hadn't she or why hadn't he phoned? What does she think of me? And so on. And then I remind myself, sometimes I say, stop, Annette. Don't go deeper into these thoughts, because I know that it's a downward spiral. And then to kind of catch myself with at least neutral thoughts. And I have one sentence that for me is neutral, and this is everything's always working out for me. I don't know if you know Abraham Hicks. So that's a sentence that's used very often. And so when I'm really on this downward spiral, I tell myself, everything's always working out for me. And then I tell myself this sentence on and on and on until I'm in a, let's say, better mood. And I would say it's like going to the, I don't know how it's called in English, where you are working with your muscles. At the German word is fitness studio. So I'll remember the name, but I think you know what I mean. The gym, and to be patient with myself and say, okay, in the gym, I'm working on my muscles. And I'm also working on the thoughts in my head. And I can't change my figure from being, let's say, 100 kilogram to 50 kilogram in 2 weeks. That's impossible. And that's the same with my thoughts. From a lot of negative thoughts, I can't change to only positive thoughts within 2 weeks. And it's also a steady work, because if I stop going to the gym, then my body will be the muscles will be will change as well.
Right. That's really well said. And I think this idea that really everything takes time, and in order for us to make that shift, 1, we have to believe that shift is possible. 2, we have to exercise that shift. We have to practice it and stay committed and really keep our focus on that point of transformation. I love that so much because it's so true. I've seen it play out in my life. I've seen it play out in other people's life when they really decide, right? And I think that's the beginning of the piece or the pieces, right? It's deciding that these things can be magnets as opposed to repelling one another. And it's okay to disagree. It's okay to have different opinions. It's, in fact, I think that's healthy, and it sounds like that's what you share as well. Um, but I think there's also a middle ground. There's always a middle ground somewhere. And I think the encouraging idea here is the solution is let's find the middle ground, wherever that may be. It's okay to disagree. Let's find that middle ground so we can move forward. I think the moving forward chips away at bridging those communication patterns, at bridging the thing, because then now you're more solution oriented and less worried about older patterns reemerging. And I think, yeah, it's really beautiful how you use that sort of, look, I need to meditate, I need to step away, go for walks, go to the gym, get physical. But just like I'm getting physical, I'm also mentally clearing up the things too. And those work hand in hand. And
Yes.
that's a really strong strategy to seeing like, okay, how can I help not only myself, of course, I got to lead myself here, but how can I help other leaders? Well, I got to sort of exemplify that. And by sharing these tools, because that's what these all things are, right? They're tools. When we go to the gym, there's tools to help our bodies. There needs to be
Exactly.
tools for our mental state as well and our communication styles.
Yes.
I think that's really powerful. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
You mentioned two very important things, and I just would like to emphasize
Yeah,
them
please.
again. So one is really, if I want to lead others, I have to lead myself first. And the other thing is, even though in a situation of a conflict, it's better to finish the conversation with the statement, we both agree that we disagree. And this is a very, very tiny agreement. And even though it's just the agreement that we disagree, it's better than going away and telling the other, you know what I mean, all
Coworkers.
all
Yeah.
these names.
Yeah.
And then really to try to set up another meeting and say, okay, we ended with our agreement that we still disagree. So how can we evolve this any further? And if more people did this instead of, sometimes it's, there's a very nice model. I also mentioned it in my book. It's a model from a professor from Austria, Professor Glasel, and he has certain steps of conflicts. And the last step of a conflict is that together they are going into kind of catastrophe. And so it's important to better get up the stairs to come to an agreement, and to always see how can I come back. And so, because what very often happens if we couldn't find an agreement, then very often let's say the parties try to find supporters for their opinion, and it doesn't help anyone if I try to find some supporters for my opinion and you try to find supporters for your opinion. And then the only thing that will have changed is that there are 3 persons against 3 persons, or 5 against 6, I don't know what, but this is one of the stairs of the conflict that makes the conflict and
bigger.
to see how to really do whatever is possible to find a solution. And if that's not possible, then to ask another person, like a mediator, for support. There are so many people who are supporting conflict resolutions, and that's what I do when I work with teams as well. That and sometimes my work is a little bit similar to mediator, even though I'm not officially one. I'm officially what is called, if I translate it, a clinical supervisor. So I'm not only a coach, but also a clinical supervisor. I've experienced a lot of conflicts that I could resolve with teams. And for me, conflicts very often, when they are resolved, they can be the step to much better understanding and to a complete different cooperation in these teams. And therefore, it's really worth resolving the conflicts and also investing money in resolving the conflicts, instead of going down the stairs or the spiral, because this really costs the company money if the teams don't work together hand in hand. And I've just written a post some days ago about employees that are no longer kind of in alignment with their company. They bear the risk of not being attentive at phishing attacks. And so it's so important that companies really be cautious that their teams, that they work together in a very good manner, and that the employees, that they are really loyal to the company, because it's not only that the customers might be dissatisfied, but it's possible that even a bigger damage will come to the company. And so there are so many reasons why to really work together in a peaceful and appreciative way.
Yeah, that is so helpful. I think this understanding of ensuring that there's a higher level of cooperation, because there are security reasons. There are so many things that can infiltrate, not just the miscommunication, but outside forces are also kind of working against competition. There are so many things that play a role here that can disorganize an organization by infiltration, in a way that isn't supportive. It's not helpful. And so if it's already weakened at the base, it's going to get weaker with these external sort of things. So it's really important to empower people, to educate them, to train them, to believe in them, so that they too start to believe in the cause of the company. And look, I've built many companies, so I know the importance of really treating my I try to treat my employees, if you will, or contractors or freelancers, just as good, if not better, than the customers I'm about to get. Because if I know I treat them well, then they will do the good work to treat my customers well, because the customer is not just mine, it's ours. They're ours, right? They like, that work belongs to all of us, and we get to share that work.
Yes.
So that was when I was a young entrepreneur. My dad used to come around my shop a lot. I had a printing company, and my dad taught me a lot of these things. But ultimately, what he taught me was just be human, man. Just treat others like you want to be treated. If you treat someone wrong, or if you swear at them, or you demonize them, that's going to come back to you, and you don't want that. And he's so right. And every time I see other people who have this authoritative, as I grew up, people who were being dishonest, and you can feel that stuff, right? And you just didn't want to be a part of that energy. You don't want to be around it. You don't want it in your company. You don't want it in your organization. In fact, I laid off 2 people, 3 people even. Their just energy was just not appropriate for our environment. And it's just like, we have to be optimistic about the future. We can't just keep dipping into the negativity of, there's always negativity. There always has been, and there probably will always be, sadly. However, we can choose, like you said, we can always choose the thing we want and go after that. And my father being around, God bless his soul, really helped me. And he used to just hang out. Like, he wasn't working with us or anything. I think he was sort of like a mentor, in a lot of ways, but he was a constant reminder of, treat others how you want to be treated, and things just work out. And this kind of leads me to my next question for you. And he brought to me a sense of lightness, a sense of don't take your life too serious, which means the conflict happens when you think you're right, or you think that the thing is so serious. But you need to laugh, you need to enjoy your life, you need to relax. That brings down the tension and the energies higher. What role does humor play and lightness have in a serious organization trying to improve communication? Is there a balance, would you say?
Oh, in my opinion, this really helps when I can laugh about me and about others. Only some days ago, I heard somewhere that yeah, people that they were taught by their parents that it's really good to be positive. And somehow I remembered that my mother, she always said, life is a battle. And so only then I not maybe a little bit before I understood why I also behaved as I behaved many years ago, because this was kind of I don't know, it's the English word ingrained, like if you have a tattoo, yeah, so it's kind of in your skin. It's very difficult to kind of you can't wash it off. It's only possible if you become aware of it, to kind of get rid of it, or to leave it, get rid of it. I don't like this word. It's better to leave it. And I'm really convinced if people, when they can laugh together, and if they look for a happiness, being happy together, then it's much easier to resolve conflicts and problems, because they are not so, let's say, narrow-minded, even though this is already this is being, if I say that someone is narrow-minded, it's no longer neutral. It's also that I kind of value these people. So what I want to say is that humor really very often helps to get, let's say, the heaviness or the struggle out of a situation.
Yeah. I think it also helps just sort of reduce the anxiety. Obviously, with humor, you want to be careful, right? It's a gap in a long sort of timeline, right? It's a gap, meaning, obviously in a professional setting, you want to be conscious of what you're making, what is being laughed at, what is funny. Obviously, making fun of yourself or being silly, but having, I think my dad did this really well. He just had a smile on his face, like, this kind of the wall isn't so high that I can't see your emotion. The wall isn't so low that anybody can push you over, right? That it feels like you're not taking things serious enough. But it's just sort of, it's at a smile level, right? So that the energies always goes to the smile. And, smiling is contagious. This is what I learned from it. I sort of learned that without being taught that, is that when you see somebody with always a smile on their face, is that they're sort of kind of like whistling while they work, right? Like this idea of enjoying the thing that they're doing. But if, they're struggling or kind of got their head on their things, and, like our physicality, right, represents our inter sort of dialogue. But if you're smiling and you're just kind of calm, or if you need to take yourself out of the organization or company or work or printing company or whatever, like I always used to just go out for a walk around the thing and remind myself to put a smile on my face when a deal didn't go through or whatever, and say, okay, how am I going to change this energy back? I think the smile is the beginning of good energy and a good laugh. Sometimes I would honestly, I still do this. I would go to my YouTube channel or my phone or computer, and I would watch a comedian just be funny,
Yeah.
and just kind of bring that energy of laughter. And it just takes down the seriousness of what I'm doing and reminds me not to take life too seriously. And that things, like, remember that it's just a flow of a river. Things are going to pass by and more things are going to come. And so that energy is really beautiful. And I love that you bring that to your work as well. Sounds very important. Okay, so I want to wrap up with this, right? You're not just a coach, you're a best-selling author, of course. How has writing your book helped you expand your work, your business, and your impact? What advice would you give to professionals thinking about turning their expertise into a book?
So there are many aspects. So one is I'm also a speaker, besides being a coach and author. And for me, the book, it had two things. So the first one was that I had to be clear about what I wanted to write and what I wanted to share with the world. And this also was a process. Oh, it's even more than two things. The second one was to be consistent, because even though today I could ask ChatGPT when I wrote the book, ChatGPT was not yet inside. It really takes a lot of also effort to really keep on writing. And then the third thing is people who have written a book, they give others the opportunity to read a little bit about the person who has written the book. So it might be different for other people. And my book, there is a lot of autobiography. So I write a lot about myself and about personal experiences. So I would say I'm also giving a lot away from me. Who wants to know me better? When I tell about examples like I did here with the, for example, soccer team, and also other experiences, all the one in the company. And at the same time, to be very honest, I would say that writing a book, at least for me, it's not yet like this. I couldn't regard it as really, let's say, the solution to earn a lot of money, because most of the books that we have on the market, they are no bestsellers. And this is limited. And for me, it's important to be committed to the work, to write the book, even though I might not earn millions with the book, and to see it as a process where there's two things: having more clarity inside and contributing to support others. And sometimes the difficulty is I don't know who has been reading my book and whom I could support. And to just be content with the opportunity for people to read the book and then to change things. So it's a lot of aspects writing a book. And I'm really happy that I've done so. When I started writing the book, I wanted to add two more books. So this first one is on communication. And I already started the other two. It's about teamwork, and the third one about leadership. Only that during the pause that I've had, I couldn't write, and now I'm back to work. And so I'm still thinking about these books. And so let's wait and see. And I really would love to share this with the world again, as well as I really want to be my book published in English language, because I really would like to contribute also to the English speaking world. And I know that there is a lot of people. So I can recommend really writing a book, because it has a lot of advantages and a lot of growth potential. Let me call it like this.
Yeah. I love that so much. Yeah. And the idea of just synthesizing our wisdom, right? Making it, in a book format, it really helps us get, like you said, I love that. It helps us get clear. And when you're clear, you can deliver that message in a very clear way. And, we don't know, there are so many ways that a book creates an impact. I think the most important impact is the one on ourselves. I think, it's like if there's a book that changes your life, it should be yours. It is how I look at it. And the second one after that is your favorite book that inspired you to write one, right? Or inspired you to live a life to write one. And I'm a very big believer in that. But then books can help, right, build our businesses, build our concentration, build our communication, build our connections, right? Because they just open up doors, right? And they're also, I think personally, they're one of the best gifts you can give someone. It's, hey, I wrote a book, you know what I mean? And to me, that's helped me build connections. It's helped open doors, speaking opportunities, consulting opportunities. Obviously, for me, I built my whole, author marketing company around my book and what it did for me as far as clarity. And so, yeah, thank you so much for, I know this is late for you in Germany, but you're a busy woman, and you have a lot to contribute, and I'm so grateful for your time today. And I love that I got to speak to someone in Germany. I want to get a few people from every country I can possibly get to contribute to these dialogues and conversations that we have around what it means to be an author, speaker, consultant, what I call an author-preneur, someone who uses their wisdom to help others. So thank you so much for being on the show today, Annette. It's been an absolute pleasure. Is there anything you'd like to leave for our audience as a last sort of goodbye?
Yes. So first of all, thank you very much. I very much enjoyed our conversation. And as to writing, it can also be an idea to start with as a co-author. So the book
That's a
that you
great
see
idea.
there, that's the one that I've written completely on my own. At the same time, I've co-authored different books, one together with Marie Diamond, and another one it's now being shown in the Library of Congress.
Wow.
And those are also opportunities to just start. And this is the thing that, I really would like to encourage everyone. It's better to take baby steps than to take no action at all. And so it can be a first step, or writing a book, or resolving a conflict, going on stage, whatever it is. And I've had a seminar with a wonderful American lady, and she always said, take imperfect action. And this is really what counts, because when I'm waiting for the right time, or when everything's ready, that's very difficult. And I think that this is an attitude that you have in America more than we have it here in Germany, to really start and to try things, and if they don't work, then to change it, and also to look and ask for support to really get things done. And this is for me the adventure in life, to always evolve and to be going and growing, and that's really what makes life also a lot of fun. So I'm really happy for our wonderful conversation, and I'm thank you very, very much for it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're so incredibly wise, and I love that you were so open to communicating with me. And when I reached out to you, sometimes when I reach out to people who don't know me, right, on LinkedIn, it's nerve-wracking, because you're just like, well, they might not be interested, but it doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to try. And that's the life I want to live: adventurous, growing, plentiful, abundant. And I think when people open up and they say, yeah, I'd love to be on your podcast, that for me lights me up. It's not about the podcast. It's about a connection. It's about, maybe one day I visit Germany and I say, hey, Annette, we need to have, a drink or coffee or whatever, like, it's to meet people around the world, so that my garden, my internal garden, and my respect for others grows even more. And you really helped me do that today. So thank you, Annette. I appreciate you so much.
And you're always welcome here in Germany, in Cologne.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. Well, it's good to talk to you. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Thank you.